So I'll just say hi all. We're just here with Brian Panhuyzen. Panhuyzen.
Yep.
Dutch name. It's just so complicated.
Panhuyzen.
Panhuyzen.
That's how you say it the Dutch way.
Say that again.
Panhuyzen.
Panhuyzen. Brian has kindly agreed to open the evening for us for the gig we're doing at the Burdock on Saturday, January 27th. So we're very excited, and we've been sort of doing a little bit of promo here and there, and it was great. Brian agreed to come and talk about his book.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to open the evening.
Yes, no pressure.
Yeah.
You were expected to sing a song as well.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's a good musician, this guy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
A
He's
bass
a good
player.
musician. Pianist,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
guitarist.
Well, a little bit. I'm enthusiastic, but not competent.
An enthusiast. This is the book in question, folks.
Yes.
Wonderful book.
With,
Tidy Armageddon.
yes.
Such an intriguing title to start you off. And there's lots of pictures of blenders.
Blenders on.
Oh, that's what
Multiple
it is.
blenders.
I started off actually writing science fiction.
Oh, you
The first,
did?
yeah, and I had some stories in On Spec, which is a Canadian science fiction.
Oh, okay.
The reason I came to writing was because of Star Wars, really.
Oh.
When I was a kid. Yeah. I was really interested in some of the stories that I wrote were like Star Wars stories.
Oh.
Like fan fiction. In a climate book, which is interesting because a lot of the cli-fi that's coming out now is all about rising, oceans.
That's
and
true.
And this
Okay.
is actually a consumer. This is about consumerism, all in the same vein, So
Yes, I guess
we're all
that's
screwed because of this as well.
Well, that's true.
That's another thing.
Yeah,
Why
and
we're all
another
screwed.
thing, by the way.
So that's true. I said it's a dystopian, like anti-consumerism novel, which kind of gets lumped in with this climate crisis. But you're right, because I was going to ask you sort of how the idea came about that, and if you want to describe just briefly the concept of why there's many blenders on the cover.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, so the story is that these characters who happen to be in the Canadian military are in a bunker. They get put into this bunker for they're not really sure why, and then they come out after 3 weeks and everything has changed. They're in the prairies, and all of the products of humanity that have been created have been arranged into kind of a maze, and each block in this maze is made up of one specific product, homogeneous product.
Yes.
So you all have blenders.
I was going to say, how do you
There are
define?
blenders.
I'm going to be such a lawyer. How do you define homogeneous? Because it is some are like, are they the original source material, or it's a composite? Was that done on purpose?
Yeah, there's
the choice?
I know. Yeah, that is a good question.
Mm.
There is kind of a theory.
Yeah, keep going.
There's theory kind of behind
The stuff you.
Yeah. But ultimately, I won't go into the theory, but ultimately I'll say that whoever was responsible for this was me, right? So I'm the one who gets to decide like what goes into what, as if I'm the entity that.
Yes.
I'm the god who created this world.
Yes.
Right? And which is not necessarily what...
As the writer.
Yeah, as the writer. Yeah. Exactly. So whatever rules there are, they're my rules. So
I was curious about the...
I always thought you were an omnipotent one.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now I know.
Well,
at least when it comes to my own books.
Proof positive. Well, that actually is interesting. And I don't know if we've explained yet the concept, but they come out and there's these towers. So do you want to just...
Yeah, so they come out and there's these towers of stuff. So there's rugs and there's plastic spoons and there's soy sauce packages and cricket bats. And there are in fact because I used a database to keep track of everything that was in there. I think there are about 700 products that were mentioned.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that was my question because I was thinking as a novelist, like novelists will do research, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah. And I'm learning, and I was sort of curious the research that went into here, that must have been daunting, or maybe that's what intrigued you or brought you into it. And I'm curious, like, the research that it went into the stuff, or, well, you could talk about the characters too, but like maybe even just choosing the stuff,
Yeah.
or what stuff, or why.
I mean, one of the biggest things that was important to me was to make it as random as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And as multicultural as possible.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because this happens in Canada. It happens,
Yes.
they come into the bunker in the prairies.
Mosaic.
Right.
I saw there were menorahs. There was a cat. There was
Right, yes.
menorahs.
Yeah, so the idea is that this is from all over the world, and it's all been gathered here. This is not just local stuff.
That's right.
So there stuff from China and India,
Yes.
Russia,
And through a time frame too, like
So-
through from history, was it the current
It's everything
stuff
that sort of has existed in the world in whatever form,
at the time that this event
that
occurred?
which is in 2016.
Yeah, that was
Mm.
great.
Yes.
But the concept for it came earlier. I'm curious about.
Yeah.
I saw something about 1990s.
Oh
which is
yeah, because
early
it was
days.
originally it was just going to be, oh, it's this kind of cool idea that I had, and maybe I'll write it as a short story. So I started to write it as a short story. I was like, oh, this is a bit bigger than a short story. So the next level up is a novella. So I started to write it as a novella, and then it was challenging. I don't think I really had the chops to write it at first. Like, it was when I had the idea, I felt like I really wasn't qualified to write it.
because
I don't know, just because it just felt very difficult to write originally.
and was that to express the concept or to develop the characters? Because I'll say, right, this is also quite a character-driven
Yeah.
novel, and if it more than anything else, right? I mean, I know there's a message there.
Yeah.
It's sort of these different archetypes. Of
I
sorts.
think when I started writing it, it was the characters were all kind of white male characters, like in the sort of vein of military science fiction.
Well,
You know?
okay.
So, and I didn't really, I felt uncomfortable with that. It just didn't feel like it was, it didn't feel real to me, or it didn't. Yeah, exactly. And then in the meantime, I wrote a couple other novels and stuff that were sort of literary novels and short stories and stuff. This is actually my third novel.
This is the third.
My
Okay.
fourth book, I had a collection of short stories that came out, and which also had some science fiction stories in it. They were literary, but
So
there
you
are
do-
3 stories in it.
Okay. It was reminding me of Heart of Darkness or Apocalypse Now, sort of this military group working their way through
Oh, yeah.
this
Okay, I never thought of that.
and
but-
into this darkness or unknown.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm. Heart
But
of
it-
Darkness.
Heart of Darkness.
Heart
But
of Darkness.
but I was sort of wondering why use that culture to explore this particular idea, like
I mean,
the
it was
military.
originally out of necessity, just like who
could
would be protected from whatever happened, like to end up in a bunker
yes.
underground and everything like that. So it was a practical.
It was a
decision.
practice, yes.
Yeah, and it actually opened some possibilities and stuff like that. They have some training and stuff like that.
Yes.
Some certain, that they can survive.
Yes.
They're equipped.
It's
they have
realistic.
Right, right, exactly. Who's gonna
It's
do
kind of
that?
believable, yeah.
Yeah. Who's
Well,
gonna do that? Yeah.
Well,
It's going to be when the hammer comes down, there's going to be a bunch of military folks left.
Yeah.
We've got
And survivalists.
Yes,
Yeah,
survivalists,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah, they're the ones you've got to perpetuate. To carry
well,
on.
that's interesting because you talk about research, like the characters respond differently. Obviously, you're sort of exploring how different humans will respond to this kind
Right.
of unthinkable.
Yes.
Mhm.
And what was the preparation? I know your partner's a therapist. Does that help? Like,
Always helps.
was there some psychology? Sort of, because I was thinking, wow, this is quite. You have to. Part of my question was going to be like, also like the female protagonist is indigenous, so you're a white male writer who is trying to capture these different voices.
Yeah, and that was important because it could have been very limited as it was when I originally started to write. It was the kind of characters, but that's boring because you're not getting it filtered through all these different psyches.
Yes.
Yeah. So then it became very diverse.
Yes.
But then I had a problem which I had to solve, which was how are all these people put together into this one, into this one group, and that there is an explanation for that as well.
Right.
They're essentially sort of military misfits.
Right.
They're all in the armed forces, but they end up being put together deliberately by sort of the brass because they don't really follow the rules.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
We're just, as an aside, enjoying
I was thinking the same
the
thing.
third season of Slow Horses.
Oh yes, right.
So speaking of MI5
Misfits,
Yes.
Great
show.
It is a great show. Also, very character driven.
Yes.
But I think it was just sort of, why are those the rats being maneuvered through the maze? And I don't know,
Simon had a bunch of questions.
Very important question.
I'm absolutely convinced at some point, because this is such a unique take on things, that somebody's going to want to make a movie out of this book eventually.
Okay, they're welcome to.
I know. So number one, please let me write the soundtrack to it.
Okay.
And two, if you had to imagine, out of all the wonderful actors and directors out there, who do you think could take on a project like this and bring something like this to realize your vision?
Yes, if I had an idea for a director. It would probably be Denis Villeneuve.
Yes.
Right?
Is he the one who did...
He did Arrival, and he did Dune. And,
he did. That's right.
Yeah.
But I can see why for Arrival, right? There's this very mysterious...
ominous
sort of thing which you just don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. And he did Blade Runner 2049 as well. That sort of mood and everything is amazing. And it's in Dune as well.
Yes. And you've got a Quebecois character in there.
Right, exactly. He's Canadian, right?
Yeah, he's Canadian.
There's lots.
So, Denis, if you're
there you go.
watching, then please.
That would be that would be lovely, but it is very filmic.
Soundtrack writer.
Well, actually, it was interesting because I will say when I was reading it, I started to feel claustrophobic.
Yeah, that's intentional.
It was intentional.
My work here is done.
The digging out of the bunker and then the disorientation and that whole thing. And it was hard. It was a hard read, but I guess it was like par exprès,
Yes.
The lists.
Well, the lists, which I don't know if there's one in particular you had the best time with,
I don't know.
Because there's quite the minutia is how many cricket bats you can come up with. But
that was another question of mine. But anyway, carry on.
How many different kinds of cooking oil?
Right. And the smell of that. But even you're exploring all.
I always try. I try to do all the senses. When I'm because there are all kinds of smells that are.
Which draws you in and also
repels
you.
Your
words.
There was a. I don't know if you've read that part, but there's a dog poop bags.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Speaking of dogs, do you want to have a plug here for Leo?
Well, that was going to be my very first question for you.
Yes.
How is Leo doing? Because I haven't seen Leo for a while.
haven't seen Leo.
He's the mascot for Tidy.
Doing great. Yes, and it's nice that I got to see Bodhi because I haven't seen him in a while.
Yes. I loved some of the pop culture references in there, and I was interesting. Certainly, there's the. I was going to call it a Radiohead Easter egg or the cryptic reference at the beginning. But, are you a Radiohead fan? Because,
Radiohead.
So was it just because of the name? Obviously, one of them is stacks of Christmas trees, and so there's
trees,
plastic, plastic, fake plastic trees.
And they are Easter eggs because it doesn't explicitly say that.
Exactly. You have to know it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just like, I
know
love that song. I know what Deeks is talking about. But she also, Deeks was reading Alison Bechdel's Fun Home.
Oh yeah.
So these are some of these references for you were just plucked from your own.
Yeah, totally, and because they say a lot about the characters as well.
Well, so that was the thing.
Right,
so we've got. I loved everything that Deke seemed to be on about, but it was interesting. So there's Wakely, who you make a point of saying had the J.G. Ballard dystopian climate novel.
Right. And he's reading it just to prepare himself.
To prepare himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's on it.
He's on it. Yeah.
He's on it.
And that kind of is an homage to how fiction. You don't have to read manuals and nonfiction. You can read fiction to help you cope. With the world.
Yes.
Like in all capacities.
Right.
Fiction, yes. Yeah, exactly. Because fiction writers have envisioned these things and they've taken a concept and extended it to what the consequences are. So it sort of give you a picture of so if this ever happens,
we're good to go.
Again, yeah.
And another reason to get the book and read it before Armageddon. So the song that we're releasing at the end of the month at the Burdock is a song I wrote coming out of COVID. Can we say we're out of COVID yet?
Yeah.
I don't know. But coming out of this dark time, and it was this notion of we're trying to see the light and escape the darkness. But are we really? There's a question as well. But it's sort of exploring, a willingness or a kind of resilience of humans. Is there, did you inject or want to inject in this very dark kind of portrayal of an Armageddon? I don't know if that's a spoiler and we can't talk about it or not, but how did you want to approach this? What was the takeaway you want, other than you don't want anybody to consume anything without thought at this point?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an interesting kind of the hope in the book depends on what perspective you're coming from, right? So in a way, the world's in a really bad way.
Yes.
We haven't been doing things in a very smart fashion to be able to extend our survival.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in a way, maybe a reset is in order.
Right.
Right. I don't want to sort of give away what really. How it ends.
Yeah.
But there's also the other perspective, which is whose team are you on, right?
Yes.
If you're on Team Planet Earth and the animals and the diversity of the life on Earth, then you're not on Team Human, right?
Yeah.
Because
yes, one or the other will. Yes, it's true.
So
cockroaches, yes.
Right. And the characters, there are scenes where the characters walk through a provincial park. Right?
Oh, yes.
And they are looking around and everything, whatever has done this and collected everything has been extremely thorough.
Yes.
So there's not even a candy wrapper or something
Right.
like that on the ground, right? They've all been collected and they're all in their stack somewhere.
Yeah.
So what the result is that this provincial park, which often there would be litter and
Yes.
stuff around, it's all gone. Right?
Yes.
It's all been cleaned
Yes.
up
It's
and everything. So in a way there is a positive outcome for the Earth. I mean, there's a reference to it where, I don't have an exact quote for the line, but the Earth was finally rid of a parasite.
Yes,
right?
no, I know it was.
Right? So it's, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, that was well. Somebody says, what was it? Conquered? Anyway, it was an interesting reference to sort of what's happened to planet Earth. Yes.
Right, yeah. So there are two kinds of different sort of messages in there, it's positive for the Earth, and then there's in the end there is something.
Well,
that's to say there is something.
What tweaked this idea, because it is a unique and lovely
I mean, it really is about, it's hard to show people what the impact is of their consumption.
Yeah.
The one way that I thought about it is your car, you buy your gas for your car, and it maybe your car holds 60 liters, right? Mm-hmm. So you go to the gas station and you pull up to the pump and you put the spigot in and you run 60 liters of gas into your tank, and you never see it.
Yes.
You never actually see it. But if you had to go to the store and buy 61-liter cartons of gasoline and empty them one at a time into your car, you would have a much stronger feeling of what 60 liters feels like. And if you're doing that every 4 or 5 days, say, you drive a lot. You know,
Mhm.
some people, especially people who don't live in the city,
Mhm.
are driving all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would really have an impact on you.
Yep.
But you're sheltered from that by this whole
Yes.
mechanism of how the fuel is delivered into the tank. You know, and it's the same deal with buying a thing. You know, you're only buying one plastic spoon, right? There's a
Yeah,
section with plastic spoons, and everybody's like, a billion people say, well, it's only one plastic spoon.
Yes,
right?
I
And
know.
that's a billion spoons, right?
I know, and it will,
Yeah.
when forced to see it, apparently will really
Yeah.
impact people's
Yeah.
mental health.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why, you know, like you say, I think it would be effective, very effective visually to actually see it. So the book describes things, and it takes a little while to describe things, but there's an efficiency on the screen that would really come through. Is that you just show somebody, you know, the scene opens, there's a shot,
Thank God
and
for
there it is,
CGI.
right there, exactly. It's a big exercise in CGI,
Yes,
but
yes.
I think it would be really effective.
I think so too, because it's like a a very immediate way to make folks think. It challenges
Yeah,
the
it's
reader.
It's
Yeah,
a
It
challenge.
challenges the reader.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
It's you know, art should be challenging.
Yes,
you
that's-
know? Yeah,
Indeed,
it shouldn't
it should.
just be. It's not a thriller. It's not like super
No.
fast, like you're just gonna
Yeah.
inhale
Well,
it. Kind of
because I
thing.
saw somebody
Yes,
refer to it
yes.
as being like a Stephen King meets what? I can't
Andy
remember.
Warhol.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
But I'm like, Stephen King.
That's got me straight away. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's attirant, it draws you in, but it's also, you know, yes, challenging. It's great. Anyway, thank you. I look forward to hearing some of it on Saturday the 27th.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that'll be fun.
I'm
And
looking forward to hearing a new song.
But, you know, when Brian reads from his book, also there'll be a chance to ask a few questions and things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it should be a really interesting evening.
see you all on Saturday.
Hey.
27th.
See you.